You are listening to history. A New England Hockey Journal, RinkWise podcast, a New England Basketball Journal, HoopWise podcast, crossover edition. I'm Evan Marinofsky, joined by Patrick Donnelly, Steve Hewitt, Ethan Fuller. We have how long have we talked about this?
I wanted to do this for months.
Like a week?
Well, no.
The first I heard of it was last week, but I know actually Ethan's been wanting to do this, but it was officially put on my radar last week.
This is Ethan's idea. Ethan, you mentioned this to us a while ago.
I think maybe it was just the two of us. I've wanted to, this has been a pipe dream of mine for a while, and then I think I had to sell it a little bit and pitch it and get people on board, but we made it.
Yeah, and because I was, when you were like, oh, we're going to put the doc together of the comparisons, you're like, all right, well, how different is it going to be? And it was different, and I think people will be interested in just how different the sports are. I know there's not a lot of hockey, basketball crossover in terms of players. You can really only play one, but I do think it is interesting, sort of the trends, the good, the bad that kind of come with each. And I think the real place to start is the yearly calendar. With basketball versus hockey. We'll start with basketball. What I find interesting, the fall is kind of light with stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's open gyms and kids are training with their personal trainers or what have you, but I would say the dead months are like August, September, October. Even?
Yeah, no, you're pretty right. And they're technically as fall AAU. I don't think it's as popular or considered as necessary because a lot of, like, if the goal of AAU is kind of exposure in some way, college coaches are with their college teams. They're not going to be as out on the road as much looking for you guys. So the open gyms are where college coaches will come and do some scouting. But yeah, it's pretty light.
Yeah, like you don't have open rinks, right? For preseason or anything.
No, there's no open rink.
No, I mean, so schools will start having like captains practices in November, but they're not. I wouldn't call them open rinks like you guys have open gyms.
And they recruit open gyms for basketball, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's very advertised who goes to open gyms,
Yeah.
Really? And what is open gyms like scrimmaging?
It's just general practices.
Yeah. Maybe a little more heavy on scrimmaging just so that people can kind of see the game action, but otherwise, yeah, it's kind of is what it is.
What does a coach get out of an open gym? Just do you talk to that player, I would assume. That's the big draw?
Yeah.
No, you can't talk to the players. I don't think.
Really?
I think they just go and watch.
They just kind of drop in. They sit on the side, and like the coaches will set up chairs, or if you're in the gym, you can just sit on the bleachers. And they'll talk to the coaches after. That's allowed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's allowed.
Occasionally, a scholarship offer will come out of these too. It's I don't think it's as common as like an AAU live weekend, but you'll see them. I think one of the other things with open gyms is it's a good way for coaches to like keep themselves on the radars of players. So for example, like Caitlin Carroll, you were at this.
Yes,
when we did the open gym and the photo shoot for Tabor for the cover last fall. Quite a few high major coaches showed up kind of to check in on Caitlin Carroll, who was a top 20 recruit. Mm-hmm. And so they were really trying to pitch her and like just kind of show face to show that they were interested in her and that they'd be willing to come up to like the south coast of Massachusetts to see her play.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what a lot of coaches will do, they'll try to schedule it so they can see as many schools, because I mean all these colleges are on a budget, so if they're coming from out of the region, they'll try to hit like a Newman Cats, which obviously those aren't hockey programs, but they're big basketball programs. Yeah. Or they'll go up to Lawrence Academy, or I mean if they're in the area, just see what the schedule, because every school like does their own schedule. I remember Worcester Academy did theirs at like 6 a.m. last year, and I was like, all credit to Worcester Academy. Like they're the best AA team of the last like 5 years, but I'm not going out to Worcester at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So sorry, Jamie
Crazy.
Sullivan. But every school has their own like philosophy of like when they want to do it and what the schedule looks like, and colleges will try to adjust their schedules to see certain schools based on like the recruits that they're trying to look at. And yeah.
So one thing that like we see, Pat, in hockey is just like in the fall it's busy, especially on the weekends. You have showcases, tournaments, kids play for their club team, but like they mentioned, colleges have to come out. That's not really a thing here because really only New England schools are scouting hockey players in New England in the fall. It's rare. Like on the boys' side, there are a couple events you'll see like an Ohio State coach at, or maybe like a North Dakota coach, but it's so rare. I'm curious, like on the girls' side, I assume it's kind of a similar thing.
Yeah, it's similar. I see a lot of Yale. and like obviously Yale has a huge footprint in like their pipeline from New England girls in the 07s and the 08s. So you see a lot of Ivy Leagues. I think the only time I've ever seen a Big Ten school is if someone already in the game is committed to a Big Ten school.
Yeah. They're trying to kind of protect their player. But it's interesting because, like, for us with fall is really busy. And the fall hockey thing never stops. It's every weekend. It's the same teams, and they're playing each other. And it's the Tier 1. It's AAA. Like, that's a huge thing. And to hear that, it's so interesting that basketball doesn't. I can't really get over that.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's busy to an extent. Like, the open gyms happen, what, 3-4 times a week?
Yeah. Yeah. And what I think is interesting to me is, like, you have AAU is our club basically, and that is spring to summer, which is your quiet time, right?
Yeah,
and
it
so
is
basically,
quiet.
Instead of having club, I don't know, it just depends what order you want, I guess, school versus club. So I don't know, like for you guys, does the club kind of lead well into the prep school season, or is it like a weird that the change of scenery can be so drastic that way?
The dichotomy that I found last year was my first year doing like just being around for the club season, and it's like it was a good way to see, you know, who had a good summer, who really improved, and who's trending as we enter the prep season. But it's tough because Evan and I talk about this about summer hockey and spring hockey and fall hockey, always hockey. That like, you know, it's can be glorified pond hockey at times. They're like everybody's trying to have a skills competition or, you know, make like, you know, show off. There's not a lot of structure, which, you know, prep coaches, they'll talk about how it drives them crazy and they got to kind of wash out these bad habits when they get them at the end of November and stuff. And so it's like, it's not so much a barometer as of like, you know, evaluating a team or anything, or like, you know, I'm sure you guys are kind of thinking about like an AAU team as a whole in context, probably, where we're just looking at like the individual players and what it means for them going into their prep season. I don't know if Evan has a different take.
I agree. It's good to see, you nailed it with like trending up, whose stock is rising. You get a good sense, but there have been times in the last 3 years that I've been burned with like, oh, I see this kid in fall and he's dominating, and I'm like, oh my god, this kid's gonna be, you know, a top kid in prep. You pick him for like a NEPSAC first team or second team, and then it doesn't work out that way. And that's what's tough, and it goes back to the structure element. And it just goes back to different parts of the game. Like I think different skill sets. My God, show better in the fall versus the winter because it's more structured. It's more physical for sure. So you know, kids can kind of get lost in that. But I actually do like that the fall is as busy as it is.
Yeah, and it was interesting, like the getting burned about, you know, projecting someone going into the season. There's also getting burned of like the lack of structure. Kind of sometimes you get a lot of lopsided games. Sometimes you're like, really, I drove to Foxborough for a 7-0 loss. But yeah, I think you said it exactly.
My favorite was this burned me a different way, but when the U14, the 09 Eagles with the Rivers kids, Carter Meyer, Finn Sears, and Sam Adolfo, the first time I saw them in the first fall, I was like, man, those kids are really good. And, you know, I hadn't had a ton of experience at that point, so I'm like, I want to pick Carter Meyer for like all second team ISL Eberhardt, but like, he's an 8th grader. Like, is he really going to play? Like, I don't, you know, he's been dominating U14. Doesn't automatically mean he's going to dominate against bigger, stronger kids. And then he went on to be our Rookie of the Year and was phenomenal and like probably would have justified all first team ISL Eberhardt that year. So it can go both ways too. That's the other thing. It can go both ways.
It's interesting hearing the way you guys approach, I guess, evaluating and covering club too, because I do think that is pretty similar to what we do, where it's like a lot of it is trending up, like who's on the rise, who's getting recruiting interest, and I think we look at kind of individual aspects too, although we'll keep an eye on the teams as a whole. Yeah. It just is different because we'll do that, and then there's like a 2-month pause, and so it almost is like a longer reset time than the prep school season, whereas like for you guys it's, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks. I don't even know how.
Do you
how
like
it
that?
works. Like, there's kind of pros and cons. I definitely think there's so many games in AAU that I think kids need a break, and I'm glad that they get that. I'm glad they get it during the summer and into like literally the school year in the fall anyway. It's probably good for them, but it is hard because what you last know is
lose
AAU.
the momentum too.
Yeah, you can lose the momentum. It's very similar. The way you described club hockey is very interesting because it's very similar for us, where it's like much more physical, pace is so much higher. It's not structured basketball. A lot of it is thinking about individuals. Sometimes you get into like, you know, ISO skills competition kind of things, and so I don't know if that's good to then have a pause after that, or Yeah.
I think one good thing, and this is interesting, like uniquely to basketball, I don't think this exists in hockey, but in the middle of their club season is the NEPSAC showcases.
Yep.
So, like were they both? I mean, yeah, they were both in. The boys had 2, and the girls had 1.
Yeah.
In June.
All in June.
It's always,
Oh, and they're
always-
in June.
They're always
Yeah.
in June. So like the AAU season goes from March to, well, the end of March to mid-July.
Yep.
And then there's almost a pause on the AAU season for those 2 weekends for the boys, where they return to their NEPSAC teams and they practice with them in the lead up to those showcases. So for like two weeks, you're back to playing with your.
Imagine getting prep
your
hockey to
NEPSAC
play outside of November and March.
Well, I mean, you kind of get that with some boys teams like Kimball Union playing as the team, but it's a different coach, different name.
Cushing does that.
Yeah. It's I guess sort of like that, but could you, like, I guess, you know, in March after you've gone to USA Hockey Nationals with the Junior Eagles, and you come back and you play with, I don't know, Dexter Southfield for a week in some other tournament, and then you go back to your club team.
Yeah, are those teams that like at the showcases, are they named like Tabor and
Yeah,
the,
no,
like
it's their
their
schools.
name?
As themselves
they're
with
being,
with
they're
their
being
coach
coached
and
by their
everything?
head coach.
Oh.
Yep.
It's like they're playing. It's like almost like the NEPSAC season, but it's not real games. It's like
Yeah.
exhibition games.
I wonder if that's an idea for for hockey.
Yeah.
Like play a showcase if your bell hit, you know, an ISL showcase, a Housatonic showcase in the middle of, you know, in the spring or something. I think I don't know if that would work logistically with other schedules, but
Yeah.
I don't hate that idea. Or the fall, obviously. I think that's the main one. You could do it in the fall.
Yeah, and I think it's good because obviously the prep season ends in March, and then without the showcase, these coaches wouldn't be able to see their kids or coach with their kids again until late August.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a mid checkpoint where because there's obviously a lot of turnover too with the prep schools. I think in basketball there's probably more transfers happening within NEPSAC than there is in hockey, and we can get into that. But it's a good checkpoint for these coaches to sort of see what they have returning, kind of start mixing in their new players to figuring out their philosophies or their schemes or how they play, and then they go back to their AU teams.
Yeah. One thing
Yeah,
I
right
think
after.
you are kind of alluding to this. One of the things I've always thought was so fascinating about the hockey ecosystem is the idea of these, I guess, one academies, but also full season models. Because I don't think basketball is remotely close to this right now. And again, I'm looking at specifically New England perspective. Maybe there are some in the larger like national context that are trending towards this, but the idea, and you can explain this a little bit better, of playing with your prep school team in a sense year round. And I know it looks differently in different times of the year, like the branding of it all, but just, I don't know, the idea of having that level of continuity. And I know I think from my understanding, some coaches in basketball would love this, to have that kind of chemistry and just that kind of focus in who is training you and coaching you an entire year. I know other people who would definitely hate it. So I don't know how you two feel about that model and what it looks like.
Yeah, it's interesting because like Pat can shine the light on the girls' side because there are a lot of good girls' academy teams. And I know that when I started in this job 3 years ago, one of the big things was like academies versus preps. Are preps gonna die because academies are coming along? And I think there's less of that now. But yeah, the idea that you it's a very intriguing idea, even to a lot of prep coaches, that you can play, you can start in late September, October. I mean, some of these academies start in early September and then run through March, April. Like that is a full season. That's more than a college season. And there are, places like Mount St. Charles and South Kent, they run that schedule, and they have, it's showcases on the weekends, one-off games, traveling to different places around the country for games. And, you even see kind of leagues pop up, like the Northeast Pack is like BK Selects and Mount and some other school. Like, I think Culver Military Academy's in there and Shattuck is in there. And so, it's a real thing. Like Long Island Gulls are another one. So I think there are a lot of prep coaches trying to find ways to replicate this. Pat mentioned it earlier with teams like Cushing, Kimball Union, Dexter's moving to this model. There's also like the Peak Performance Prep League in the fall where like schools like Portsmouth Abbey and others play together under a different name, under different coaches, but they play as one in a league I think it's every Sunday that they play in New Hampshire, and it gives the kids one spot, and it's all the teams playing together, and it does help, I think, towards the end of the year compared to teams that where the kids are sort of scattered for fall. So I think it is moving towards that on the boys' side. It's just, I think, getting the NEPSAC to like say, oh yes, you can all start the season in October, even though like it's the same with basketball. What basketball or hockey players playing a fall sport? None of them. I mean, hockey definitely isn't. Girls do.
Girls for sure.
Then that's where that differs.
Yeah, I don't know if we would ever see that on the girls' side outside of your academies and your Shattuck St. Mary's, because like there are different ways to get this. You can do this like Kimball Union is doing on the boys' side, where you're the team, but it's under the club name, or what are they, the Wildcats?
They're the Wildcats.
Yeah. Or you can be at your school and your team all year and be at Shattuck St. Mary's or Winchendon on the girls' side, or Level Academy, and you're playing in, I think Shattuck is in some sort of league, but they also go to different showcases throughout the country from time to time, but like their schedule is September to USA Hockey Nationals in the first week of April. Same thing for Winchendon. Winchendon started at August 30th last year and played their last game on March 2nd, because I don't think they made nationals. And on the girls' side, what prep coaches harp on all the time is how they want the well-rounded athletes. Phillips Andover has a lot of girls on their roster that are great soccer players and field hockey players in the fall. Coaches really like that a lot. And you get some coaches, like in our coaches survey last week, who handful of them would like a longer season, but I don't think it's like starting in October like the boys.
Yeah.
Like there's some sort of an appetite for the boys. I think it's like either add a couple weeks in November, kind of after the fall season kind of ends. But like we were talking about this off air like an hour ago, but it's like it all eventually comes down to, and we've had coaches say it on the RinkWise podcast, we've had coaches say it just to us in general. It all comes down to what you're looking for as a player yourself and what your family is looking for. If you want more hockey, then there are the full season models for you. If you want potentially multiple sports, if that's your thing, or just more of like the traditional school experience with elite hockey, then you get the prep school and you'll play your fall hockey and all that.
Yeah, I think do you think so? For us, it's a little bit different because most of our players are sacrificing the spring sport instead of the fall sport because that's when our club calendar is. But I don't know. Do you think there is even like a hypothetical appetite for, let's say, a prep school to have? I think what it would look like is a prep school has an AAU team that is just their prep players, and then they go and like compete. Like, do you think that is something viable, or is that weird?
I mean, I do think there's one school that's maybe trending in that direction, and it's Cats.
Yep.
Like, Cats has, I don't know how to explain this, but Todd Quarles is the Expressions Elite. Expressions Elite is like one of the top AAU programs.
They're on the Nike circuit. We'll get to those.
The top Nike circuit. It was like they just made the Peach Jam semifinals. Is where you get the most exposure.
It's fun. It's like you're speaking a different language.
I know.
To us.
I know. Cats. Yeah. Cats,
but to your audience,
Cats,
this is
Cats Academy in Braintree. But Todd Quarles, the director of Expressions, basically he was part of kind of building this Cats program, and he hired Carrie Harrod to be the head coach of the prep program. But the two kind of work hand in hand, where you see like Expressions in this past AAU circuit it was mostly Cats players on the Expressions team. Mm-hmm. So now that Cats they moved up from NEPSAC to the national Nike EYBL Scholastic prep school league, national league, which also has Brewster and has a lot of the top programs around the country.
Yeah,
it's not a New England-based league, so they'll be traveling to these showcases all season instead of staying in New England. But now that I think it's sort of maybe trending in that direction where they can attract kids to come to join their program and also stay for the spring with us for Expressions, and it almost becomes a year-long like academy for them.
That's really interesting.
Where they get the same coaching insane skill development from the same coaches,
Mm-hmm.
which you can argue maybe it's good for kids to go to a different like AAU program with different coaches where they can maybe emphasize maybe some different skill work or work out of a different role than they would in their prep team. I think there are pros and cons to that,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I think they'll attract a lot of kids that want maybe that year-long sort of streamlined, consistent coaching from maybe the same people that can help them get to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been something like we've heard too, is like coaches like, it's good for, their kids to hear another voice.
Yeah.
And like just experience something different for a couple months. But then the flip side of that is you look at USA Hockey Nationals last April in the 19U Tier 1. It was 2 full season teams that met in the final. It was North American Hockey Academy, NAHA, and Bishop Kearney. And Bishop Kearney smoked them, but it was 2 full season teams that have gelled together and played together all season, rather than like, as an example, the Boston Junior Eagles, who, all of them played at different prep schools throughout the year, and then they come back and after they play together in the fall, some of them might play on the same teams in the winter, but then they all just kind of melt back together in the spring, and it was 2 full
That's
season teams
interesting.
that advanced.
Yeah.
And then another thing was, I was going to ask you guys was, in spring AAU, are there any players that are balancing, like probably not, balancing a spring sport with AAU?
This is a story we're working on. Very rare. There's
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Very, very
I
rare.
don't think I've seen it on the boys' side.
Yeah, I forget what the situation was with Ryan Altman, but I know he was a baseball player, and I forget how much of a sacrifice that was. I guess I'm kind of spoiling some of my story, but there's a girl, Izzy Kittredge, who I'll just explain it all. She is a lacrosse player.
Read it too, obviously.
Yeah, please read it. It's going to be in our next magazine. She's a lacrosse player at Medfield, really good at both sports in Medfield, and she actually had to make quite a few sacrifices because she wants to play both. So she went from her top Bay State Jaguars AAU team, which is on the Under Armour circuit, to a secondary team that was still very good, but the top is where you get the most exposure. So she went down a team, and she reclassified and transferred to Nobles because, and I'm still trying to understand this, that's why the story's in progress. I think there's a rule, I don't know if it's MIA or Medfield specific, that you can't miss a spring sport practice to play for a club team. So, so she reclassed and transferred to Nobles because that rule doesn't exist in NEPSAC. So now she can play AAU basketball and lacrosse, where she like literally could not do that at Medfield.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's very hard to play a spring sport and also do club.
Yeah, there were a couple examples in girls' fall hockey where, Phillips Andover is just easy because they're the easiest examples to think of. Emily Mara is committed to BC for soccer, but she played with Aspet in club hockey. Was one of their best players in the fall. She lit it up at Phillips Andover in hockey, and then was back playing for Aspet in the spring at USA Hockey Nationals for hockey, even though she's balancing all of her other soccer stuff, and she's kicking ass on the ice. And Andover's goalie, who she didn't really play that much this year, Avery Roadheffer, committed to Michigan for rowing and gave up the head of the Charles to play for Aspet in the fall.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, in boys, like, the only fall, like, big sport one is Mason West. That's the kid who was drafted in the first round by the Chicago Blackhawks, who's like 6'6" and a quarterback. And I think the rumor is like he's waiting on like a Big Ten school to offer him for football. But there's nobody that I know of around here, and every coach I talk to really can't name anybody who's playing a fall sport. Whereas spring, obviously, with hockey, it's lacrosse, and then it's baseball. If you cut into spring lacrosse and baseball, I think there'd be riots. But I know even like for them to do, there's the Mass Hockey and the New England District Festivals in the spring, and kids miss baseball or lacrosse for those. And I know it's a tough thing, like they'll baseball at night after having a hockey festival all day. So, but that's the only time it really crosses
And Mass
over.
Final 40 is when you get into like the ISL tournament in baseball.
Yep.
So you're missing potentially big things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give or take.
I think on the boys basketball side, like for the majority of them, if you're committing your like life to trying to get a Division I scholarship, there's no choice but to just like focus on one sport. Like with Ryan Altman, player at Rivers, friend of the podcast.
Yeah, had her on. You guys met him. Or
That's
Evan met
right.
him. Yeah,
I
You
did.
guys met him too. There basically was a crossroads. I forget exactly when. Probably going into his freshman year at Rivers, where he's also a pretty good baseball player, but he had to basically choose one. Like, you can't really, because during the baseball season is the AAU season, and it's just too hard to do both. Like, you're traveling every weekend, like he was with the Middlesex Magic. There's just no real time to play baseball, and actually he was able to play baseball this spring just because he didn't have AAU anymore to worry about. Like, he was graduated and committed to Penn and everything. But it depends on the kid, like what you're looking for at the next level. Like, if you want to be D1 basketball, you got to kind of commit every corner of the schedule to basketball.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And I think that's one thing that hockey people are always, and I don't think this is, I don't think it's specific to hockey. I don't think it's specific to basketball. I think it's just college sports in general. And that's a bigger discussion. But like, if you're gonna try to play Division I, like, you do have to fully commit to that sport. And that's the thing, right? Like, and coaches and we can sit here and people can say, oh, go play other sports. It makes you a better athlete. And definitely if you're a little kid. But once you hit high school, I don't know how, like Jake Boganicki, we had his dad on RinkWise. Like, he's a phenomenal baseball pitcher and like is genuinely trying to see if he can play Division I baseball and hockey, which would be really difficult, but maybe he can do it. That's a really, really, really rare case. 99.9% of kids, unfortunately, and I know people don't like to hear this, have to focus on that sport. That's just the way it is. And it's unfortunate because there was a time when, like, yeah, you could be a phenomenal hockey player and baseball player in high school and, have offers in both. I mean, look, Tom Brady was drafted to the MLB too. Like, all these different things. Yeah, and, like, there are those examples. It's just becoming less and less because we are becoming so hyper-focused on one sport. And it costs a lot of money, and it's a lot of time. And the reality is, we're sitting here talking about basketball as basically a full year sport, and we're talking about hockey as a full year sport, and that's just the way it is.
I did misspeak earlier. Emily Mara is a dual commit for hockey and soccer at BC.
Ooh, wow,
and another one that comes to mind is Cassidy Carmichael, who played hockey for Naha, so full season hockey, but she kicked ass in lacrosse at Westford Academy. And she's a dual commit to Ohio State for both.
That's crazy.
And Ohio State is big time in women's hockey.
The only basketball player I can really think, I was just looking this up, TJ Power was a 5-star player at Worcester Academy. He's from, I believe, Shrewsbury, or he might be.
I think you're right. I think he went to St. John's.
And he committed to Duke for basketball and intended to also play baseball. And part of the reason he picked Duke was because they were like, oh, you can play baseball for us too. I don't know if that ended up happening. I know he's now at Virginia, and I don't really know if that worked out at the college level, but he at least had the intention of doing both. That's like the only elite level guy I can think of who was able to do that.
Those are elite genetics.
And then obviously Pat Connaughton, but he would, like, the kids we're talking about are just like freak athletes.
Yeah. The
different
different specimens.
Mm-hmm.
My next question, Ethan alluded to this earlier, the Under Armour circuit. For the hockey, what's up with the shoe circuits? Like the like brands sponsoring leagues, basically.
So I'll try not to do too much of a history lesson because I'm still learning myself, and Evan gave me a great book to read.
I actually could speak on this.
Yeah, Evan might be able to help me out. Black Market. Read Black Market. I'm about to read it on my trip. So the way at least it works currently is different shoe brands sponsor these circuits and the teams on the circuits because, again, this is all kind of a long, correct me, you have some understanding of this, if I'm explaining this wrong, but the play with a lot of these shoe brands is they want these athletes in the pipeline so that the elite ones, when they make it big time, are like signing the contracts with the company. So it's all kind of a long-term leverage play. But the circuits also like get the shoe brands a ton of publicity because everyone on the circuit is wearing their gear and posting about it and all this sort of stuff. So the way it works is you have kind of, and Steve, correct me if some of this is different, especially on the boys' side, but Nike is considered, because they've been in the game so long, the best shoe circuit. And so they sponsor a set amount of teams. They have specific weekends in the spring AAU calendar that the teams join together, they play each other, and then it culminates
for like their circuit schedule.
Yeah, standings.
They're like
it's almost
Does
like
Nike ever play Adidas?
No, that's a whole other controversy. Great question. Great question. So
just trust busting on this podcast right now.
Yes. So then they come together and play in a mid-July championship during the last live recruiting weekend. And so Adidas has another one like that Under Armour has one. I think those 3 are probably considered the best. For the girls' side, there is an independent circuit called Select that basically just does this without kind of the long-term shoe gameplay. And they're considered very good. And they will actually, at some of their events, get some of these cross circuit matchups, which are fun. Then there are smaller circuit brands like Puma is getting increasingly into the game, and they have their own circuit. New Balance. More independent ones like Made Hoops, Hoop Group, and it's very strange, and it's always been strange to me. Allbirds is not in the game yet. We'll keep an eye out. We'll keep an eye out for the Allbirds circuit, the Lululemon circuit. Yeah. Well, you never know. But,
I think that's so interesting.
I don't know how much either of you guys, was this a thing before NIL? Like, does
this
giving them equipment, did that violate anything?
Well, we're
Yes,
gonna say
but no.
we're gonna say not publicly, and I don't know all the specifics. Is what I'm gonna say. I definitely know that there's corruption related to.
I guess it's no
Evan,
different from a prep team
Evan.
having like CCM helmets and gloves. Like, I guess it's not really any different.
Evan, please.
I mean, they get free stuff.
Well, listen, I
free
can
gear.
say it because I don't care for basketball. I read the book. Like, 100% corruption. Like, paying people and everything. And, like...
It's really sketchy.
It's really interesting because they, like, the book, Black Market... Again, I've read one book on this, so, you know...
He's the expert.
I'm an expert now. I've done my own research. It is really interesting because they start with these kids when they're really young. Like you know... 10, 11, 12, like it's very young.
Yep.
And you're getting in with them and, you know, you're supplying their families oftentimes with shoes and different merch, and you're doing it through like not the coach, but like a friend of the coach. And it's, you know, because, you know, some of these kids are not brought up in great environments. They might not have a lot of money. And so it's like we're supplying them. And that's what Black Market is about. Yeah, where it's like, you know, hey, we've done all this for you. Like, you know, Nike or Adidas or Reebok or whomever. Like, we've gotten you all these things. Like, the Black Market book's interesting because it went in deep on like the Zion Williamson's family. And like they you know, they went to every collegiate event they could. I think they even helped them get like jobs and houses, and it's very, very interesting. And I'm assuming that's not most cases, but for the big guns, for the guys who are like generational, like that book, when you read it, and Steve, you should read it too, like when they dive into what they did to get LeBron at Nike and Adidas and all these different places, I mean, my God. So there isn't that on the hockey side.
No.
Like, there just isn't. Like, there's not a Bauer. I mean, Bauer will have an event where they have their, you know, athletes, but those players are all like in college and pro. Like, it's...
Yeah, and like, I remember they used to have it like back, I don't know if they still do it, but like the Bauer Hockey Experience, you could sign up to demo stuff and like buy it at the end, but you weren't getting it.
I wonder if that is a thing for hockey. Like, I know
There's enough ideas.
There's enough money in hockey already, but I do wonder if we ever get to a point where there are Bauer teams and CCM teams. But I'm curious because like basketball, there's a lot of brands. Hockey, there's a good amount of brands. It's not as big a deal. Sticks are very cool. But like, I don't know if you guys can answer this, but like, why do they do that with basketball? Like, they're going to use the equipment anyway. Like, Bauer's the big one, but then, you know, there's CCM, there's like True, you know, there's others as well. Maybe not as much competition as there used to be, but like, why is that like that in basketball?
Well, it's very interesting. This is something that I've learned over the couple of years that I've followed AAU, is it's not only about... AAU in general has not only become about like shoes trying to like play this long game with getting players to sign. There's so many other ways that these circuits make money. And so an example being a lot of the big circuit weekends happen on live recruiting weekends. I don't know if this works like this in college, but there are specific weekends during the club calendar where college coaches are allowed to go and watch in person. They can't do it every weekend. There's only like... That's so interesting. There's only like maybe 4 or 5 in the entire spring and summer. And so when that happens, that is very publicized as far as like, we bring the best college coaches here. You'll see event providers plastered on social media. I would say probably a good 50% of the highlights that you see on live weekend are just videos of the college coaches watching, not even the actual players, because they want to advertise like, oh, these are the coaches that are coming. And so again, if you want to get scouted, you're paying, as an AAU team, you're paying the entry fee of like $900 to get your team there. If a circuit or an event has 400 teams, bang, that's like a ton of money that you're getting for this live weekend. And again, what you're paying, it's like parents, thousands and thousands of parents that are paying for a parking and a day pass. College coaches have to pay hundreds of dollars literally for a packet of rosters. Like, that is their ticket in. And also it's rosters, but like they're not allowed to not pay for it. Like, you as a college coach don't get access unless you pay for the roster book. So that's hundreds of coaches paying $300 to $500 for literally a booklet of kids, and then that's like thousands more money that these providers are making. So
maybe hockey's not that bad.
Yeah,
It's just a lot of money.
there's so many ways that they know how to make money, and like,
Gosh.
I don't want to. I feel like I'm making them all sound like they're evil, because I know
No, it's not.
No,
It
like,
isn't.
I mean,
It's-
like,
but it is like, you got to kind of keep an eye on it all. Yeah.
yeah.
you get a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of that in hockey when like a showcase will post a graphic of like, here are what schools have attended like in the past.
Yeah.
Or like you get a showcase with like just college coaches running on ice drills for you, and they're like, oh, we got these coaches coming to run drills this week. And it's like, that's the most I think you'll get.
Some showcases in the fall will charge you, and it's like,
Yeah.
and we like, if you're a coach or you're covering it, I just say, oh, I'm covering it, I'm doing a hockey journal, and they just let you go by. Like, it's no big deal. And it's like, but they do make parents pay for day passes and things like that. It's not a lot of money. I think it might be like $5 or $10, but yeah, it is on as you said, Pat, it's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of that. I mean, a whole podcast could be devoted to the shoe and the brands and stuff.
Yeah, that's why we have so much great ideas for stories, is because there's just so much to kind of unpack about it. I wanted to ask too, again, thinking about a lot of the like avenues for player development. One thing, we have talked about this a lot off air, and this does not exist at all in basketball, and you were explaining it doesn't really exist in girls hockey, but the idea of like additional, I guess, higher levels that are able to recruit out of NEPSAC. Like, this doesn't really happen in NEPSAC outside of some of those national prep schools that we alluded to, like the IMG academies and the Montverts. But the idea of like the CHL of being like another area that is able to pull kids out of NEPSAC, or the National Development Program, that is just not a thing in basketball at all. So for, I guess, our listeners, can you briefly explain like how that works, and then also like how much of a concern that, I guess, quote unquote, concern that is on your end? Yeah.
I mean, now I'm going to sound like I'm speaking a different language, but like it's junior hockey. I mean, the pre-juniors, like they're in the, let's even say early 2000s, USHL existed, but it was, the United States Hockey League, a junior league. It was in the Midwest. It was mainly for Midwest players. It was good, but you didn't see a lot of New Englanders and locals go to it. In like the mid 2010s was when it started to pick up, and it became sort of, oh, you can get a little bit better for college out here. Well, 10 years later, it's basically a prerequisite. You basically have to play juniors if you're going to play Division I in college hockey. And now it's even become a little bit of one for Division III college hockey, which people are sort of shocked about. But essentially, you have the USHL in the middle of the country. The teams are mainly in the Midwest. It's the best junior league in the United States. Pre-CHL ruling, it was the best junior league before going to college. Like, you wanted to play in the USHL. And then there were some others. There was the British Columbia Hockey League out in Western Canada. There was the North American Hockey League, which is here, the NAL. There's like the NCDC, which is pretty good. NCDC is typically a little bit more skewered towards Division III players. But now with the CHL ruling, kids can play in either the QMJHL, the OHL, or the WHL. Those are all Canadian junior leagues, and then be eligible to play NCAA Division I hockey, which prior to the CHL ruling last November, you were not allowed to do. So if you so much as skated, it's just a rule. If you just so much as skated for an OHL team, you could not play Division I college hockey. So
like, you were just like,
couldn't play, not eligible,
disqualified.
I think part of it had to do with like, it's all eligibility, but like, I don't CHL players get like stipends?
You
or
get
something?
it's
so like,
so they're
money
considered pros.
yeah,
essentially, kind of. I
Yeah,
think, right? A little bit.
it's all complicated because the NHL also has their own thing where like if you draft a CHL player, they can't play in the AHL until they're 20 years old, so they have to just go back to juniors for 3 years, even though they might be too good for juniors. They can't play pro hockey. Yeah, but that's also changing soon. So it's all very convoluted for kind of no reason. It was probably just separation of church and state.
And you
have to pick a lane.
And that's one of the things that a lot of kids are struggling with now. Is it was already difficult because you can leave prep early for the USHL for these junior leagues. Now there's the CHL, which so the CHL, not to get too into the weeds, is regional based. So the Ontario Hockey League has the rights to all the kids in Ontario, and then mid-Atlantic, basically, like New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and states around that. For here in New England, the QMJHL has regional rights to kids in Quebec, Atlantic Canada, and the Northeast. New England, basically.
Okay.
And so now, like, the Q is a really good league, but it's not quite the USHL. So now the dilemma is, if you're really good in prep, but you're not quite ready for the USHL, you can go to the Q. And so one of the worries is that for USHL teams is that kids are going to go to the Q and never leave. Like, ideally, you'd go to the Q for a year or two and then the USHL, and then you'd go to college as like a 21-year-old, which is why college hockey's gotten much older. But now the fear is that they're just going to stay in the Q and they're going to like it where they're at, and then that's going to strengthen the Q and weaken the USHL. That's a worry.
Are the Q and USHL like pretty similar talent-wise, or?
Well, the
What are the
USHL
differences?
is higher, and the Q is a little bit lower.
Okay.
But so the
Probably put the OHL above the other two.
completely,
Yeah.
OHL, WHL, then the Q. But the point is, it's complicated as hell, and that's why, like, Pat, when you and I talk about like the girls'
It's awesome.
side, it's just whoop right up. Like, boys, it's you got to go
Like-
here, and then you end up in college. And look, college hockey's gotten better. Like people always say, oh, it's because the high end talent's coming. Well, sure, Celebrini helps, and Fantilli and Gavin McKenna help. But it's more so that kids are in junior longer, they're older, they're more seasoned, they're more ready, and that's created a ton of problems, or a ton of trickle-down effects that we did a whole magazine on. But yeah, on the girls' side, it's much.
Yeah, I mean,
streamlined.
pretty much senior year, right to freshman year of college, you might get a handful of kids who post-grad somewhere, whether it's either a logjam at the school or, maybe a recommitment somewhere or what have you. Like, there's only a smattering of post-grads in prep this past year. And, like, even though, like, if you do, a lot of post-grads might go from NEPSAC to, as an example, Level Academy to do their post-grad year. It's very straightforward, far easier to understand, and that's not even getting into, like, there's an entire offshoot of the CHL, USHL stuff with the NTDP.
That's right. At least that's a little
basketball
more.
doesn't have that either
We
for
do not
USA
have that.
basketball. So I don't know if we
We
want
have
to open.
none of this at all.
I don't know if we want to open that can of worms, but
I mean, I personally do. I don't know how much time we have, but like,
we might have to have a part two.
What's like the 2-minute pitch on the NTDP?
It's always been there. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's been there since like the 90s, I think.
Yeah.
So again, it's existed for a while, but it's essentially, for those who don't know, the U.S. National Development Program is basically Team USA, and they come in and they take the best, or who they judge as the best, rising 16-year-olds, and they're on the U17.
What is like the
team.
volume of, like, how many players are we talking about that they take?
They take 40 to a camp, and they whittle that down to like however many for a team. Like, basically
25.
like 25.
Okay.
It's you're right. It's 25 kids. They take 3 goalies, and that U17 team plays out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. And they go around and play in the USHL, basically. And they'll do tournaments every now and again, playing like teams around the world. But they play predominantly the USHL. Then they move up to the U18 team, and that U18 team plays colleges as well as USHL teams. Now,
Imagine that. Like, imagine if AJ DeBonsa or like Ella Pieper are playing
yeah,
Duke, and like that'd be crazy.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like,
They beat BU every year.
They do.
in
Like
a
the-
Christmas exhibition.
they're good. And so the thing with the NTDP team is that U17 year is hard because you're going up against older players who are
Pros.
better. Well, not
pros,
not
but, like-
U17, but like juniors, kids much older. And then even that U18 year is hard, but those teams, if you're nasty on those teams, you're likely a first round pick.
Yeah.
Like that in the NHL draft, because you're drafted right after typically that U18 year. So, yeah.
Typically, you see a much better year, like statistically, on the U18 year
Completely.
after adjusting the U17 year. And even like if you go to a game, U18 playing your local Division I college, and you look at the lineup sheet, everybody except for like 1 or 2 kids is committed to a top flight Division I program.
And that's just because they're waiting.
Yeah.
Usually. Like
Yeah.
the 2
And
kids aren't
it's just
not
like
committed.
fish in a barrel of like BU. They had like a whole BU line, and then like Carter Amico on D, and yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
This is interesting to me because this is like probably extremely low chance of happening, but I'm imagining the hypothetical. Steve and I talk, I don't know, this may be relevant to hockey, about how the college game is becoming a lot better and a lot harder to like stay at your school with the transfer portal and everything and NIL, and it just like becomes a lot harder for players to go Division I now. And so I think like I understand why there could be a world where like if you are at a prep school and you're trying to go Division I and you don't know if the scholarships are going to be available for you or you don't know if you're ready, like I understand why there's like an intermediate in that way that like can get you prepped. And maybe that means that college basketball gets older because it's post high school and you like take a year or two and get ready.
I think the only thing that exists is like a post-grad year. Right now.
Yeah.
Junior basketball, baby, started up.
I wonder. That seems more logical than I thought it was going to be in my head. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah, one of the things in our girls prep coaches poll is like the answers were very widespread on if we think we'll ever see a USHL equivalent on the women's side. Some said no, never going to happen. Some said yeah, probably in like 10 years or something like that, and others said yeah, it's inevitable. So it's interesting. Like people are pretty like I'd imagine probably pretty split on basketball too.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I think
we'll
so few people know about this as like just even a hypothetical. So
we live it.
I don't know. Yeah, you.
I mean, there's no
You're in the
NDDP on the
future.
girls' side. The thing for that is like you get your national camps in the summer. If you're good as a 15 or 16-year-old, you might go straight to the U18 camp, or you can make it out of your other camps. And then from there, it's like the best out of the U18 camp are getting picked for the U18 series roster against Canada in August and the U18 Women's Worlds in January. And those are like the equivalent of basically the kids who would be, if there was a women's NDDP, they would be on those rosters.
Yeah.
Just makes basketball seem so simple.
Where do you want to go next? Because you have some. I think you want to.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Because I'm looking at, like, one of the things we mentioned in the notes we took before this, because we all had to brief each other, because like I don't know anything about the basketball side, and respectfully, you guys don't know anything about hockey, which is okay.
Less than nothing.
Boys
don't
hockey
even have
stuff
to-
I don't know either.
Yeah.
But like recruiting, we talked a little bit about this on the basketball side. Hockey-wise, recruiting, girls hockey is a teeny bit different. You can boys hockey.
dates are different.
You can watch any game at any time, any place, anywhere you want. You can't talk to the kid until they are January 1 of their sophomore year of high school.
Ours is,
That is-
June 15th after
After
their sophomore year.
So similar.
So that is similar.
So it's
That's the
Somewhat.
same for girls hockey.
Girls is
June
the same.
15th
But that's like
after sophomore year.
that's like direct contact.
Hey, yeah. Do
Yes.
you guys have people who circumvent this rule all the time? It's basically an unwritten rule that you can go to
parent.
the AAU coach or the parent and say, "Hey, can you put me on a call with your child?" And then you talk.
Offer scholarship.
yeah.
I think it's more of they'll talk to like their prep coach to say like they're interested in their watching.
Okay.
And I think that's
Do you guys have verbal offers like basketball?
starting on June 15th for
Okay.
girls hockey.
Okay.
But you have kids announcing that they got an offer from.
No.
like that's
They only
part.
announce
That's part of the
not a thing in
That
hockey.
is such a part of the basketball culture.
Ethan and I have talked about this a lot. Hockey, they only post the commitment, and then even that's a big thing. Like, take your time. You don't need to have a commitment so you can post on August 1st or June 15th. Like, but no, like football and basketball and even baseball, where it's like, blessed to have a visit to Toledo, or thanks to Tulane for a verbal offer. Like,
Blessed to have an offer from UMass football.
Boston
Poor kid.
College University.
But the one thing, this is where, and we didn't put this in the doc, but I am curious if basketball has this too. Agents and advisors.
Oh,
yeah.
I think we briefly talked about this. It happens, but I'll let you take your side. I know it's not as young as you all, but definitely is coming, especially in the age of NIL, where like there are different levels of agents and heavy quote unquote agents who don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
There's definitely a level of like there are actual like firms that will go out and help people. It's very much in control of the parents, like how much they want to open this can of worms. So like
Yeah.
AJ DeBonso we've talked about before, his dad basically controls it. Like even though he's making millions in NIL money,
Before he's ever played a college
yeah,
basketball.
the dad has been like, I'm gonna keep control of this, partially just so it doesn't overwhelm them all. But yeah, it's different, and I would say probably, I don't know, it depends on how hyped of a prospect you are, but maybe I don't know, maybe like high school you're starting to like think about agents. But I know for you've told me it's like what 11, 12.
It's younger.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Are
and
you serious?
advisors are at different games some are at 12, U12 games and things like that, just to kind of get a read on the next kind of crop and get
lost
kids
the
under
plot a
their
little bit
wing.
there.
What?
I think we've lost the plot a little bit there.
Well,
11-year-old.
it can work. It look like that's how it's done. And so
Yeah.
you guys mentioned like, do any coaches circumvent like talking to the kids? And it's not. This isn't really illegal, but just like, oh, so and so, that's their advisor. Like, oh, you know, we're here. And I think that's one thing that you see a lot of is like talking to the agent and the advisor, and the agent knows that. And it's advisor, by the way, for kids. Like for kids, it's not technically an agent, but. That's how it's looked at. And look, there's good and bad. I think when it comes to kids leaving prep early so often and kids going to juniors or kids committing to a certain college, I think that does have a lot to do sometimes with advisors. Not every single one, but I do think that advisors play a large role in it helps to be able to say, oh, we've moved a lot of kids onto junior hockey. We've moved a lot of kids onto the USHL or whatever. Like that helps. And that's sort of the push. There is also the parent element too, where parents like to be able to say, "Oh, my son left prep a year early. He's in the USHL, or he's in the BC League, or he's in the Q." Like parents definitely like it too. But I think advisors can help sort of drive that as well.
Yeah. It kind of never stops. Like when you're a little teeny tiny tyke. Oh, he's walking already. Oh, he's already in the USHL.
He's good. He's good. And I think, and that's one area where. It's going to increase. It already is large. There's a lot. I mean, you go to any hockey event, there are a bunch of advisors there, established ones who work for bigger agencies, ones who are just starting out, and it's a real thing. And there's a lot of good in it. I don't mean to put it as like bad, because it isn't. There are good things and there are bad things, and I think it's a balance when it comes to that.
Yeah, I would say that about. I think where agency is going on basketball too, because just because NIL has very quickly become such an important conversation, especially on the basketball side, like you need those kind of voices to guide you, and so
a 17-year-old's not gonna be able to wheel and deal like that.
And even
no way.
And even the families to an extent, like there are families that just have various levels of knowledge about the college game and college finances and that sort of stuff, and so I think those kind of voices can help. There needs to be continued growth of like, this is where you should be going, and these are the voices you should be talking to, and not just listening to whoever comes up and makes like a flashy sales pitch for you. So there's
offers you the most money.
There's a lot of like, I think there are growing pains that go through this process. Yeah,
and even with hockey, like when it comes to advising where to go next, what team to go to next, you do kind of need someone for that. Like, you shouldn't, as a player, as a 15-year-old, have to be fielding calls from coaches who are trying to recruit you to their club team or their prep team. Like, it is good to have an advisor there to say, hey, these are the preps that are interested in you. Here's how you can get in, blah, blah, blah. Like, you do need someone that can help manage that. It's when it goes over the top that's where it gets a little murky. But it's fine as it is.
You might know more than, or you definitely know more than I do, because you deal with advisors more than I do. But, like, it's probably a little bit of like a dose of reality too, of like, here's probably where like, this is the good fit for you, or, you're probably better slotted here or whatever, instead of like, everyone probably thinks they're better than they are.
100%.
Parents think their kids are better than, like, and that's not like a knock on anyone, but it's just like, you need like kind of the
reality check,
the third voice,
outside eyes,
the 30,000 feet view.
Yeah, and that's the best advisors are like that. The best advisors will say, he's a ECAC commit. He's probably better suited for the NESCAC, or he's better suited for a non-Beanpot school, or go to a prep school where he can shine a little more. Like that's a big thing. And so those are the best advisors, and those typically tend to be the most successful ones too, which is a good thing.
I think I don't want to let this run too long. I think the last thing I wanted to ask, because this seems, I was looking through in our notes, we have a list of controversies and hot topics. And I think we like kind of accidentally hit a couple of these, and some we can save we could definitely do like multiple episodes of this.
We could.
But one that I see on both is the cost of club and just like playing this sport consistently. And I think we got there at different points of this episode. Hockey, and from when I've talked to you both in the past, it seems like cost has been a problem for a little while at this point. And basketball recently it's always had this kind of idea of being more accessible than some other sports, but that has not been the case recently, especially if you want to be an elite talent. There's a lot. So I don't know, like how how would you kind of fix that on your end? And for Steve, I would ask how we fix it on our end.
How'd you fix it?
I don't know. 'Cause the first
That's
thing
an honest answer. Yeah.
like the first thing I think of is the equipment, and with the technology, like these companies aren't going to scale back their prices. Like the top pair of Bauer skates is what, 900, and it's kind of maybe even cracked 1,000 because it was 900 when I was playing high school hockey, like 800.
I'll look it up.
And like the sticks keep getting more expensive. The top of the line stick when I played high school hockey was $250. Now they're $300-400.
I don't even know what
the sticks keep going up, and the sticks are the ones that everybody falls in love with. Everyone has 2 or 3 sticks, and so that's like $1,000 you're shelling out on a stick and like a couple backups.
$1,200 for a pair of Bauer Vaporfly light skates.
So it's
That's
cracked
insane.
1,000, and
That's crazy.
and the elite players are using those elite skates. Whether or not you actually need them is probably personal preference, and if you have someone who's helping you like get the equipment fit to you at like a store or something. But like that's the one the equipment cost is not going to come down. Just with technology, margins, all this and that, it's not going to come down. So does it become to like barrier to entry to join a club team or play in a tournament? Like there are fees associated with that. I don't like Evan and I. We talked about this a couple minutes ago off air. Where it's like, a couple weeks ago we were talking on the pod. Like, when does the youth sports bubble burst? It doesn't. Like,
No.
I don't see where it stops, and especially when you look at the hockey equipment.
So to bounce off that, like I agree with you. I don't know how you make hockey cheaper, but I was thinking of this, Ethan, as you were talking about the price of these showcases. Both are too expensive, but at least hockey, is super expensive. Like hockey has the MO of it, and we all agree it should be cheaper, but like it's going to be expensive. You accept it. You know it from a very young age. Even like I did a story on the Bruins Learn to Play program, and I think it's like $250 for like everything. And if you like it, you stay with it. But the reality is, once you get past that, then the money really starts because you have to pay for real equipment. But you get into basketball thinking, as you said, it's accessible and it's not expensive, and that it's cheaper and there's more access to hoops and shoes and balls. But then you get to that higher level, and that's why in that book I read, like, so many families who go in thinking it's going to be a cheaper sport are like, holy crap, this is insane. Yeah. And it's almost like, I'm not saying it's worse because I don't know how it's priced out, but like it's almost a little more sinister that like there's all those fees on at the end that you maybe don't expect.
It's the taxes.
It is when you sign up for basketball as a young kid, and it's part of doing business. I get it, but it was an interesting thought I had while you were talking.
No, it's interesting.
I'm not a parent, so I'm not seeing what everything costs.
That is another story idea I want to do one day.
And the equipment isn't going to be as expensive as hockey, just naturally.
Yeah.
And a lot of these kids get the shoes delivered to them for free and everything. So I don't know how you make it cheaper. I know if you're a top recruit, you're going to probably want a personal trainer. I don't know how much that costs.
Can't be cheap. Hockey has skating coaches.
And you're doing camps in the summer, even outside
shooting
of the
coaches.
showcases that you pay for.
Yep.
Like I think team fees for a showcase.
We didn't even get to college
are a
elite
couple
camps.
grand, and
Right.
You're splitting that amongst your team, but it's still a lot.
Yeah. And we've talked about like the AAU schedule is just like it's just so many games over the course of like 2 or 3 months. You're playing like 50 games or something like that, and just the travel that requires to go out to California for a weekend. If you're a family, like that's just hard. Flights, hotels, and I don't know how much it costs to be part of the AAU team either. So this is something we'll have to explore in a story.
That was kind of my thought. The one thought I've had through a lot of this is, and maybe this is applicable to hockey too, is if there was a way to localize more of this travel, particularly on the club side, where I think what is helpful for a lot of at least basketball fans growing up is you have so many travel leagues and town leagues that are like good intro ways to get started before you like jump into AAU and jump into all your prep school stuff. And that's very easy, very accessible. You're still going to have to pay money, but you don't need to pay money to travel everywhere except gas. And so if that was more built up and more recognized outside of, like the leagues at the Y when you're 9 years old, if it was like a little more serious locally, that could be one way. I also think having some more authoritative governing body, especially on basketball. USA basketball does not have much control over what goes on.
Interesting. USA hockey's pretty
I think that's very helpful. Like, even, I don't know if this is USA hockey related, but I'm so jealous of all the accessible stats that you all have about your prospects. We just don't have that. And so
it's funny, accessible to you guys is like still kind of a little bit of a slog at times for us.
Yes.
We just don't get that. But I think if there was a single body oversight of a lot of this stuff, that would maybe rein in some of the corruption that we've talked about, and also just kind of provide clearer standards of what to expect with prices and everything.
Yeah. It's interesting on the hockey side, and this is a whole nother podcast that at some point, like Pat, you and I will have to dive into, is like towns around here have historically had good hockey programs. Like, I grew up playing for Framingham, and like it absolutely can do that. Most or a lot of kids nowadays are switching to club teams way earlier than they used to. Like 8, 9, 10 years old, switching to like a Minuteman Flames or a Junior Eagles. And that's a whole nother can of worms of like, you're not playing for your town, so you have no allegiance to your town, so you're not going to play for your town high school. And
you're speaking our language again. This is like a thing that we are writing about.
Yeah. And it also turns it into all the best kids are on the same team. So this is what the National Development Program runs into too. You take all these elite kids, put on the same team. Well, someone's got to play on the fourth line. Yeah. Someone's got to be the third pair on defense. And so suddenly you get pigeonholed as like a 9-year-old into being like a third line left winger. When it's like, no, you should be
gotta learn to forecheck, buddy.
Yeah.
8 years old.
Get ready to kill penalties.
Pucks on net.
Like hypothetically, like it's great that you're playing at a high level and everything, but like you should be the star of your, like historically, you would have been the star of your town team. And that would have completely shifted your mindset as a player. Like, no, I'm the best. I'm the man. Not, oh, I'm 8 years old. I'm playing behind 3 kids on the depth chart and everything like that. And that's when it gets into be insane. Not even money-wise, but just like hampering down skill. And that's something that I consistently hear from parents, college coaches who have kids in the club scene and things like that. That's the thing I hear the most. And when people like say, oh, mass hockey needs to change, blah, 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 that's one of the things I keep hearing is like, you're putting all the best kids on one team. You have to be from a certain team, and that sort of hurts things. Yeah. So,
all right, that was good.
God,
we were just warming up. Like, dang.
My God.
I think there has to be a part 2.
Yeah.
There probably should be a part 2.
We'll reconvene. I hope this is as enjoyable for the listeners as this was for us.
I hope people, I think people got stuff out of this. Like, if you're a basketball listener, you're more aware. And we would do it throughout the podcast, comparing like, oh, what if there was juniors in basketball? Oh, what if there was a Bauer showcase in hockey or something?
Yeah. All right. Dang. Evan, you want to close us out?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it. I have no more words to say. I don't think we do. That's RinkWise. That's HoopWise. We will see you next time at the rink or at the court.